I'm thrilled to bring you today my first interview with a couple launching a business abroad in a foreign country. I want you to meet Nathan and Cindy Lee, who recently moved to Romania to start their entrepreneurial journey. They share some invaluable tips for entrepreneurs working from home in a foreign country. I'm Gail Bates, and I want to welcome you to my series featuring global entrepreneurs who work from home. With over 20 years of experience as a home-based entrepreneur myself, I really understand the challenges of staying organized and managing your time and avoiding overwhelm in today's fast-paced world. And that's why I'm interviewing other entrepreneurs to share their insights on how they run their businesses, which is going to benefit all of us, right? And kind of bringing to you these practical tips that you can apply to your business as well. So I'd love you to take a minute to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell to be notified for more upcoming interviews. So in this interview today with Nathan and Cindy, I discuss the ups and downs of starting a new business together and moving to a foreign country. And you're going to learn how each of them works differently and how they create a rhythm in working in the same space together every day. And also they have great advice on setting boundaries and lots of other just little nuances that you wouldn't think of when you're setting up a new business in the country you live in. But setting up a business in a foreign country, again, is a little different. So whether you're new to entrepreneurship or you're looking for tips on starting a business in a foreign country yourself, their advice is very practical and insightful. Good morning from Hawaii and good evening to you in Romania. Yes, we have Cindy and Nathan Lee with us today, and I'm excited to hear from you and hear about your insights in being entrepreneurs living in a foreign country, in the country of Romania today. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gil.
Thanks for having us on. We appreciate it.
Great. So let's get started. I always love to get started because I'm wondering, living in a foreign country, how you're establishing yourself and getting up every day, and talk to us a little bit about your daily routine being in business in Romania.
I'll let you start.
Thanks.
We're part of what we really are focusing in on personally, and two, with the community and business that we're starting, is creating a rhythm of life. So I'll let you kind of share a bit.
Most days we start around 5 a.m. because we have a prayer group that we meet with online. Mm-hmm. And for us, it's about 5 a.m. For them, it's about 9 p.m. at night. And for the people that we're praying with right now in the morning. So we start about 5 a.m. But that doesn't mean we get out of bed. We usually are actually online in bed with, because we're awake, but talking and stuff like that. So, and then we're up between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning, and do the breakfast thing, and then most days we're kind of work independently until after lunch. And then usually we'll work on things together after lunch. That's kind of the rhythm we've established right now.
Right.
And that includes, we have a couple of dogs. We take the dogs on a walk at some point in time in the day. And sometimes we have to go out for appointments or things like that. But generally, most days are pretty, up till about, say, around noon, we work independently. And then after lunch, we'll work together on projects that we're working together.
Right.
So.
But for you, taking the morning is more for personal, taking time for meditation, things like that, right?
Well, it's not just meditation. A lot of it is it's how I get inspiration to do other things. It's the meditation is important for me to be able to actually do the podcast and the social media stuff we're doing, and just to move forward in the business stuff that we're doing.
I love that. That's that inspiration that you need. And as entrepreneurs working from home, that's very, very important for us to keep our business running, right? So it's a wonderful
Yes.
for you to be able to do that. And so tell me a little bit about how you manage your time. Talk a little bit about, do you have any ways that time management tips or ways that you work that help you stay on track with the projects that you have?
I would say Cindy should answer that question because that's really her. She likes to stay on track.
Yeah, I think you'll discover that we both have very different styles. So that can actually pose quite a challenge too in trying to work together. But recently, as also part of creating this rhythm, I've discovered just one of the calendar scheduling apps. The one I'm using now is called Todoist, and I'm finding it to be pretty helpful. I like to have things organized. I prefer paper planners and everything as well. But I find that it's been really nice to be able to have things synced across different, my laptop and my phone. So actually writing down and creating time and space for everything is really helpful for me. And I like how this one I can even kind of categorize it by project, and then it'll also come up in the day. So it's easy, I feel like, to write everything down for the project, and then all those individual pieces get lost, in your actual day. So it's really setting a time, literal space and time to do these things and see it. For me, that's really useful.
Yeah. I think that those are really important. Once we find that way that works for us, it really helps us be more productive, be more efficient, right, at what we do. And so I think finding that, just that one little app, that Todoist, or I think it's called.
Yeah, Todoist.
Is making the difference for you. So that's great advice for other entrepreneurs that are listening and watching for this today. So talk to me a little bit about goal setting. Do you set goals? Do you have a process for setting goals? How does that work for you?
We definitely do set goals. Usually we'll meet, like I said, we get together in the afternoon, but usually at least once a week we actually talk about where we're at with the goals that we do have and how we're moving forward. And and we'll have one of the things we'll do for setting goals too is sometimes we'll have brainstorming sessions of how to, things that we want to come up with and things we want to move forward in. So,
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Making appointments. And I think weekly goals are so important. I'm a big proponent of weekly goals.
For instance, when I started working on the TikTok thing, I had a goal of I want to post at least make 2 videos a day to post on there. Because that was, that really shows you're engaged and part of the platform, that type of thing.
Right.
So, and that's been a challenge to keep up with, but I've done a pretty good job. I haven't made 2 every day, but some days I've made more. So I kind of let that be I didn't make 2 yesterday, but I did 3 today. So type of thing. So.
It's such a lesson in consistency, right? In teaching us how to be consistent. And it's one of the main facets of being in business and being an entrepreneur, right, is really making sure that we are consistent with what we do. And I think that's admirable, very admirable. 2 videos a day is very admirable.
Well, and the one of the biggest things is just showing up and being there in any business, whether it's for yourself or working for somebody else. You have to show up, because if you're not there, you can't make progress.
It all goes back to that's why we're entrepreneurs. That's why we like to work for ourselves. And it's so interesting that every time I interview somebody, this always comes back. What's why we're being entrepreneurs. We enjoy that freedom of being our own boss and setting our own structure. And I think that really is part of this video series. It's making it, people are really enjoying that, I think, learning how to be an entrepreneur. So thanks for including that. I think that's great. Okay, so talk to me now a little bit about challenges and how you overcome them. What are your biggest challenges? Let's just talk about 2, okay?
You start.
For me, I think the biggest challenge has been learning how to work together as a couple and realizing it was only a few months in that I realized, it's different being a couple, husband and wife, and then also in the relationship of working together.
Mhm.
And they are different. So first, even just realizing that there is a distinction and then trying to make space for it. But I think one of the major challenges that we face with that too is that we work so incredibly differently. So there's definitely been a lot of pulling out hair moments.
Yes, we've had our running into each other moments for sure. It happens. That's a part of just being a husband and wife, and then you add in the business aspect on top of it.
And part of it too, like on a personal level, but also when it comes to trying to work together, is I think what works for like our individual rhythm. So, for example, I think this is important for anybody, especially working for yourself, is knowing what type of rhythm is needed for you.
Mhm.
Like, for example, for me, I prefer to jump in and kind of do things in the morning, like not right away. I need a bit of time, like with my coffee, and just, reflect. It's fantastic if I can sit outside or be in nature and do that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I like to jump in and actually, do most of the thinking type work or creative work. Whereas, as we were kind of discussing in the beginning, he likes to just kind of ease into the day and flow through the day, and it's more reflective, more meditative. And so that's been like a place of conflict as well. It's,
right.
I'm wanting to dive in or, address something, but he's in a completely different phase. So yeah.
I would say that another challenge is the work-life balance. Because you can find yourself, it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and you're still doing something for work, and you should have turned it off already.
Yes.
And that's hard to sometimes turn it off. Because you think, I'll just do this one more thing, and then all of a sudden it's another thing. And you need to learn to turn it off and have just time for us as a couple. That's something that we've had a challenge for finding too at times.
And are you finding time to explore the country?
Yeah,
somewhat. I just actually, but this was, I just did a training in the mountains, so that was very nice. But it was a training, so it was very intense and very busy. But it was still amazing to actually get out a bit, get some space. He was home with the pups, so that was helpful. But really, we need to incorporate a bit more exploration, date nights, even that type of thing, in the city.
We've done a little bit of exploring the country, but not as much as we'd like. So we need to do more, definitely. So
and that kind of brings me to the question about staying connected and collaborating. As entrepreneurs, we have the isolation problem because we're home working on a lot. So how are you two planning on staying connected and collaborating with others around? I would imagine it's always, in Romania, but being there and being connected around the world, I think being online is probably another area. How are you planning on doing that?
So one of the things that we do want to do is help bring people together in community. And so that's an important piece, even if it is remote or even like doing this. It's nice to be able to connect with people, and we have that ability with technology now. This weekend or this week, when I was away a few days, it was big groups of people. And so, and when we first got to Romania, we actually kind of just jumped in, like feet first, and we made a lot of connections. We were involved with a lot of different
groups, different activities,
and we actually had to wheel that in a little bit in the last few months. So again, it's about balance.
But also the training she did is going to be help her stay connected. Also, she did a trauma healing training, and she has to do a couple of healing groups where she actually gets 4 to 5 people together and works them through the trauma healing process. So I think that'll be wonderful to help keep some connection going, that type of thing.
Yes, that's really a gift, and it's wonderful that you're able to do that. So your connections are not only around the world but locally as well. So you're doing a great,
Yes.
yeah,
And we amazingly have neighbors here on our street that are very friendly, which is kind of unusual for Romania up here because our neighbors, a lot of times they'll come out every night and get together and talk. And we've run into other people and they've lived here for like 25 years and like, I don't even know my neighbors. I'm like, oh, really? It's like, we know all our neighbors.
But
So,
it's not to say like most people are quite friendly in general.
yes, they are.
But,
yeah,
but yeah, I think it's interesting just because most of the houses here too are gated for privacy. So it's not.
You just don't walk
go
up to the
to
front door like you do in the States. Yeah.
right. Oh, interesting. Very interesting. And
Yeah.
and while we're talking about areas of neighborhoods, tell me a little bit about your workspace. I want to hear a little bit about how you say you both work differently. So do you have different workspaces, and how does that work?
We do, but we kind of share the space we're in right now is primarily I use it, but we share at the same time. Like if we're working together, we usually come up here to work together in this space.
Yeah, this is what we call the podcast room because it's where we, record any podcast episodes that we do.
Yeah.
And then when we do come together to kind of go over things or to plan, we usually do it up here, or even calls like this if we're like meeting with someone virtually. Usually we're here, and it's a smaller space, and that actually helps, I think, to just kind of keep you focused.
It feels like an office space.
Yeah.
So
Right.
and we've got a whiteboard on the wall, so we can put ideas down. We have a calendar on the wall, things like that. So it is really done up more as an office style space.
Right.
So
you don't have two separate rooms. You actually work in the same room.
We actually, yes and no. So then downstairs in the living room, there's an area kind of it's an open area, but I've created that into like my office. So a lot of times I will be working there, and he might work up here.
I joke with her that she needs to do the Les Nessman thing from WKRP in Cincinnati and put up the lines so that it can be designated more. Because I don't know if you remember that show, but that was one of his things with. He had to put up a dotted line because the whole office was open and everybody
The cubicles. Yeah.
Yeah.
The dotted line. I love it.
Yeah, the dotted line. Yeah.
You got to knock or whatever.
Yeah.
It works for some. I remember, because my husband and I worked one time in an office together, and it really worked out.
Yeah.
So everyone that we've mentioned that we actually I won't say have to, we work together. They always say, "Oh, this would never work for us." So
yeah, it's
definitely
it's a different dynamic for sure.
Yeah.
So. But it also has a lot of perks too. I mean, we get to spend a lot of time together that we wouldn't otherwise get to do. So,
you got to look at the bad, right? It works
exactly.
It work, and I think, well, that's what marriage is about. Partnership is about, right? Whether business or not. You kind of referred a little bit about maintaining that work-life balance. Do you have any other tips that you would share with other entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So for me, the biggest thing is having clear boundaries. And I'm just starting to dive more into that. So actually having time away. Like for me, if I'm engaged in something, I can keep going. And that's another point of like difficulty too, is that I have a lot of energy, a lot of, input on things, but then he needs a lot more space and a lot more time to step back and to process. So setting boundaries for when the work time ends, for me is huge because I've not been very good at that. Before, when I worked for a company remotely, it was really helpful to, at the end of the workday, I just took the work laptop, shut it down, and put it away. And that was like, I'm leaving the office. So I need to basically do that for myself now too.
That is such a great point, Cindy. I mean, the difference when you work for someone else and you just, it's fine. I can close this down. I can stop now, right? Whereas when you work for yourself, it's like, oh, I want to get this done. I want to keep going, and you keep
Yeah.
and it does make the difference that you have to. And I love the way you put that when you said, you have to have clear boundaries and know when to stop. Yeah, that's wonderful. I think that's great advice for other entrepreneurs. So tell me a little bit about professional development. That's one of the questions that I always ask, as
Okay.
entrepreneurs, and you're starting a new business. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing for professional development.
Well, we did mention a little bit that I would say that course you just went through would be considered professional development for what we're doing, the trauma healing course.
Additional training. Definitely, I knew from the get-go that I need a community, that I can't do everything by myself, and we can't do everything by ourselves.
Right.
So we've worked with a coach, and I'm working with like a business coach right now. And we've also worked a little bit with someone for marketing. And even I'm starting to work with a spiritual director. So really bring in different types of people and resources to support us.
Another thing we're doing is we're going through a thing called the Order of the Mustard Seed, which was established back in the 1700s when the Moravians had a 100-year prayer meeting, basically in the area of Austria and Germany. And out of that, one of the things that came was this Order of the Mustard Seed, and we've started the process of becoming members of this Order of the Mustard Seed. So that's definitely special professional development, because they have requirements that you have to read these books, listen to these podcasts, things like that, and then you have to do an interview, and so and that's all about committing. It's like it's what they call the new monasticism, basically. So you can be a monastic from your own home and have a family, and you don't have to go off to a cloister type thing. So, and that's kind of what our community is going to be around.
Oh, that's fascinating. Oh, that's wonderful. So you're keeping up with that and starting the business. You guys are doing a great job. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about taking care of you. What do you both do to help you avoid that burnout? What's your favorite way to take care of yourselves?
Yeah, I was just going to say, especially since we really want to help create spaces for people to just be still, to connect in with themselves, to God, and retreat. It's really imperative that we do that. So this last training that I went on, although it was not a retreat really, but at the same time, I was able to go into nature and really be in the mountains. And around here, there's not so much nature.
Well, yeah, it's not mountainous, but it's flatland. But
it's just still like flatland.
Yeah.
But and I do miss the ocean. But basically, taking time to be in nature for me is really helpful. And a lot of times, even if that's just outside on your porch or patio, or if you can just walk outside, those things matter as well.
Taking the dogs for a walk.
Yeah, taking the dogs out.
Very helpful. The other thing, I exercise pretty regularly. I try to exercise, several times a week, 4 or 5 times a week at the minimum. That helps, taking at least 30 minutes and doing that, and just you feel so much better after you do it. You're energized. Your body feels like you better, and if you're not exercising, you're missing out. Really.
He also does sun gazing.
Yeah, I do sun gazing too. In the evenings, I try to catch the sun in the last hour when it's going down. You can do the sun gazing, and that's really a meditative type of activity where you can go in and just.
I know. I do that at 6 a.m. 5 and 6 a.m. in the morning. Greetings. I greet the sun.
Yes, yeah,
love that.
It's a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah, I walk.
And
I do a walk.
And after you do the sun gazing, I find it really productive to go in and do a meditation session too, because it really centers you and grounds you. So,
great advice for entrepreneurs who really need to tap into that self-care and what works for you, right? Last question for you. If you could offer one help, and you're starting a new business, so if you could offer one helpful piece of advice, or maybe a lesson you've learned to fellow entrepreneurs working from home, what would it be?
I'd say don't give up. Keep pushing forward. So many people that are entrepreneurs, they give up right when they're about ready to have that breakthrough, and it may not seem like it's coming, but you got to keep pushing. It'll happen. You know, the building, the growing is slow at first. It comes in a trickle, and then it's a flood. And so get yourself ready for the flood, basically, by just keep pressing in and pushing in, because it's going to happen.
That's great advice. Great advice.
Yeah.
Cindy,
I would say reach out for support.
Yes.
Just know that you yourself can't do it all.
right.
So know where your limits are and what it is that you need help with. Like in our case, working together, although there are many challenges that we mentioned, at the same time, as we work with each other more and develop further, we can really harness that space between where, you know, my strengths and his strengths are different. And if we can really focus in on those, then it'll...
It's actually a really good thing that we have different strengths.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not good at something, she's probably good at it. And that's very helpful in a lot of ways.
Playing to each other's strengths is great. Yeah. Okay, so now tell us a little bit about your business. Tell us a little bit about where people can connect with you. I want to hear about the podcast and other areas that people can connect with you, so we can put all of that description below so people can click on those links.
Absolutely. They can find us at Be a Light in the Darkness podcast on Apple, iTunes, on Spotify, on Amazon, on all the different podcast ones. We're on pretty much all the podcast platforms. So that's Be a Light in the Darkness, revealing the sons of...
Tell us a little bit about the podcast and what you offer on the podcast. Do you interview people, or is it you?
Yes.
So share with us more about that.
Yeah, we do. We are doing interviews. We would like to do more interviews. It's one of the things that we've only done actually 2 or 3 published interviews so far, but we'd like to do more. I just published yesterday our 35th or 36th episode. I don't remember. So we publish a weekly episode, and the episodes are under 20 minutes long. Most times they're between 10 and 15 minutes, a little bit. And a lot of times they're focused on, we have a series that's focused on blessing. We have a series that's called The Alchemy of Breath, which is focused on meditative breathing and using techniques for meditation. And then we just have the overall podcast where we'll talk about different spiritual concepts, and it's coming from a Christian point of view, but anybody could listen to it and get blessed by it. So it's not, you don't have to be a Christian to enjoy what we're talking about. So.
Yeah. Great. And anything else where people can connect with you on other areas?
Yes, they can connect with us on TikTok at Be a Light Podcast, and 888 is the name there. And then we're also on Telegram. And what's the name on Telegram of our channel on Telegram?
It's Mystic Isle. So the Telegram is the community piece. We're going to start there to kind of bring people together who might be interested in prayer.
Prayer, meditation.
More intimate prayer groups. Mm-hmm. And if they were interested in joining like our daily prayer, that's an option as well. So the link that we provide, it will take to that Telegram group.
And what about the workshops that you offer? What are the workshops that you offer?
So right now I'm developing that actually. So for the trauma healing, I kind of see it more like resilience, like building resilience and empowerment and learning how to work through loss, which is what I really realized recently is it's just part of life. But I'm finding it very interesting and empowering to see how can we take those moments of being at a crossroad of major change, even things like we've been going through, and really catalyze it into, something deeper, to be able to take that and make it a strength and, move deeper into the calling. So for now, any of those healing groups, I would be doing it in person here and then probably online as well. And I am developing a program where it'll help guide and walk people through kind of a self-guided course or quest, and then also some coaching involved. So eventually I'll have more of that information on the Instagram, which is at The Mystic's Way Illuminated. And I think you have the link for that. So,
and also our webpage is bealightinthedarknesspodcast.com. However, we might be changing that to .live. So we'll send you that link also.
But right now, that's where they can meet you on that.
Yes.
Which will
bealightpodcast.com.
Yeah, bealightpodcast.com. Yes.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This is, as I said, this is the first time I've interviewed a couple, and
okay.
we've both shared some great information for my audience that are watching, for other entrepreneurs around the world that work from home and find all the challenges. And hats off to both of you doing it together. Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much for the interview. God bless you. We really appreciate it. Take care.
Did you notice how Cindy and Nathan meet weekly to discuss goals and just brainstorm together? And I loved hearing about Nathan's TikTok goal of posting 2 videos daily. It's really a great example of showing up consistently in your business. Doesn't matter where you live, right? And as new entrepreneurs, they're fully committed to growth, working with a business coach and a marketing coach. And I think their advice for anyone starting out was don't give up and don't hesitate to reach out for support. That is just so helpful, especially if you are a new entrepreneur. Very wise words. So I want you to be sure to check out Nathan and Cindy Lee's podcast, which is called Be a Light in the Darkness, and all of their other resources, which are down in the description below. Now, I have a question for you today, right? What support do you have in your business in working from home? Do you work with a coach? Do you have a mentor? Or do you belong to a supportive community? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming future interviews in this series. I'll see you in the next video.